Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series number 82 Autobot Ratchet. And this is Ratchet as we saw him in the opening sequence of the 2018 Bumblebee movie. So as we always do, let's go ahead and take a look at that packaging first. And right up top you have Transformers Bumblebee, you have Ratchet. He is Autobot Ratchet Studio Series 82. Transformers up the side. You've got that artwork on the side looking good. On the back you have your product shots. It is big screen inspired. Cybertron falls. And as the Decepticons launch their final assault, Ratchet and the Autobots find themselves outnumbered and flee Cybertron in the escape pods. And down here you have your warnings, and you do have the sad baby. He's sad because they have to leave Cybertron. And over here you've got number 82, a close-up of that face. He is deluxe class. Bumblebee up top, and down low you have your manufacturing information. So that is it for the packaging. Let's go ahead and see what came inside that box. Behold, here is everything that came inside that box, and we will start with the little sheet of warnings. Always good to have those. And then you do get the instruction manual. And the only real accessory that Ratchet comes with is his rifle, so let's go ahead and bring that in and take a look at that now. There's no paint on this, but it does have a good amount of sculpted detail. And for a medic, this is a rather impressive gun, I gotta say. Nice big rifle. And then you've got that open barrel right there. Unfortunately, it is not blast effect compatible, so that is a disappointment. It sure would have been nice if they're going to mold this thing, if they could have made that opening the right size to accept a blast effect. Gosh, that would have just set it off, but I'm a broken record when it comes to that, so I'll try not to complain too much about it. But there it is from the top. And there it is from the bottom. So you do have a few hollow areas, but it's not like you're ever really going to see those. Not that big of a deal. But yeah, blast effect compatibility and maybe just a splash of paint on there would have taken that up a notch. All right, so that is everything that came inside the box except for Ratchet himself and the included display base. As I've said in previous reviews, I appreciate that they include these, but I don't have any room for them, so this will go back into the box and the box will go in storage. So what we'll do now is we will go ahead and we'll bring Ratchet in for his close-up and take a look at this guy. Here he is, the bot we've all been waiting for. This is the Autobot Medic Studio Series 82 Ratchet. And I gotta say, this figure has its flaws, but my gosh, from a looks standpoint, he looks awesome. This is a really cool sculpt and a really cool design. Yeah, I have a bias. I like Ratchet. He is one of my favorite Autobots, so maybe I have a little bit of bias there, but I really do think that this color scheme, the sculpting, everything looks great. So let's go ahead and bring him in and take a look at this guy. And we'll start up here at the head. First thing I want to point out, this is a little different from some of the other Studio Series figures, is he has light piping. And I know it may not be coming across on the camera very well right now, but he does indeed have light piping. And when you have this guy in the right lighting, this looks good. I mean, his eyes just light up a brilliant blue, and it looks really cool. So he does have that going for him. Now, I will say there is a color difference between the molded white and the painted white. I'm trying to overlook it. You know, I like to think of it as, okay, it's just different shades. You know, he's got some gray down here, so I can kind of play into that. But I'm a little disappointed in the lack of the color matching there. But for the most part, he just looks really good, and I really do like him. And I got to keep reminding myself, this is a deluxe class at a deluxe class price point. So moving on from that, you can see even down around the head, he has some sculpted in detail there. And then coming down to what will be in his vehicle mode, the cockpit or the front. We'll see this again in the vehicle mode, but it looks pretty good. You know, again, maybe they could have cleaned up that paint just a little bit, but being a deluxe class, I think it looks pretty good. You've got that Autobot symbol right there. And making our way down, just that lower abdomen, that crotch look good. Legs look good. He does have some interesting hollow areas. So this is pretty common, but I found these two hollow areas here to be a little unusual, but it's not bad. It works. It gives him a depth in his legs with that sculpt work. And coming down, you've got some gray there, and then those feet look good. As always, they would benefit from a little bit of paint, but again, I remind myself this is a deluxe class. And then you have these faux wheels on the outside, and I don't know how necessary those were, but you know, I guess it gives it a good overall look. And then you've got those legs there. And coming up here and taking a look, for the most part, he fills out. Looks good. You've even got the sculpt work right there, so you can't really see up in here. So I think this fills his chest out area pretty good. It doesn't look like he's hollow. And up under the arms, yeah, there's a lot of cost saving going on here. So you've got a lot of hollow areas where I think they could have done a little bit better. Now these fists flip in, so not a lot they could have done there. It would have been nice if they would have added a panel that would have closed that up. But again, trying to hit that deluxe class price point, and when you look at it from this side, it really doesn't look too bad. Coming to the outside of the arms, all that looks pretty good. A little bit of detail there by the elbow, and then up in here, looks pretty good. Coming around to the back, I think he does look, at least on the upper body, he looks pretty good there. I really like what they've done here. So these are just the outer panels for when he's in his alt mode, but they fold in, and they've added just a ton of detail in here. And, you know, even from the back, he looks pretty good right there. Now, unfortunately, he does fall apart at the bottoms of the legs, but this is where the feet fold in. Again, I'm tempering my expectations with the fact that this is a deluxe class price point. So, yeah, I mean, he doesn't look too bad. He's got that 3mm port right back there for a flight stand. So, yeah, from a detail standpoint, this guy looks pretty good. I really do like the overall look of this figure, and that's definitely one of his stronger points here. So let's go ahead and talk about articulation, and we will start with the head. So the head's on a ball joint, and you can do quite a bit with this guy. He's got a good range of motion, more so than I've seen with other figures, and you can take that all the way around if you choose to do so. And here at the shoulders, you can bring the shoulders up that far. They can go all the way around if you choose to do so. At the elbow, you get right at 90, and you do have bicep rotation, and then as we saw earlier, you do have that wrist swivel in that you can take advantage of if you want to. And then he does have waist rotation, so you can take that all the way around if you want. And then down here at the legs, he does get a nice, good split going, so you can do that if you choose to do so. And he can kick forward that far. He can kick backward that far. And then you have thigh rotation right here, so you can go all the way around. And then at the knees, you can get just over 90 degrees at those knees. All right. And then down here at the feet, I would have liked to have seen a little more range of motion in the feet, but you do have some. So you can get the feet looking upward that far or pushed up. And then down is pretty much however down you want to take it, because these fold in as part of the transformation. And then you do have a little bit of ankle tilt. You get a few degrees here. It's not a lot. So you're going to get about that much ankle tilt. So this is normal, and this is the tilt. So you're just going to get a few degrees there. So you're not really going to be able to get him to go full sumo, but you're still able to get this guy in some really nice poses. So articulation, he's got a few weak points, but for the most part, he is articulated for what we would expect for a deluxe class transformable figure. So no major complaints on articulation, just would have liked to have had more in those feet. You know, I guess it's probably a common complaint. That's how I feel about it. Before we move on, I do want to say that much like the Wheeljack, I have a couple of, I don't want to call them quality issues, but that's kind of the category they fall under. I have some quality issues with the joints. So this is as far as I know, it's a brand new design, it's a brand new mold, and I have legs that are just way too loose. I mean, this shouldn't happen. So, and these aren't even ball joints. You know, these are pins all the way around on this, and they're just too loose. They just move too much on me. And this waist is actually surprisingly too loose. It's way too easy when I'm trying to pose this guy and you want to torque on that leg to bring it out and then kind of do one of those. You find yourself so easily touching that, and then the waist will twist on you, and then the whole thing will start to fall. And now he looks like he's, oh, well, can he do a crab? I can do a reverse crab, I guess. There you go. So, you know, if you wanted him doing that, hey, he's breakdancing. So just something to note that hopefully it's not your copy. Hopefully it's just mine, but I do have some loose joints. So not particularly happy about that. But what we'll do next is we'll just go ahead and we'll bring in his accessory. I'm not going to make a separate segment for it because there's no blast compatibility, unfortunately, as I mentioned. But you will, we will bring this in, and it's a rifle, so you plug it into his hands. Either one, your choice. And bam, there you go. So now he does have weapon storage. It is kind of clever, and I do like it, and it looks good. So you do have this little port right here, and then you have this square peg right there. And then you can just take that and plug it in. And then boom, he's got his weapon on his back. Looks good from that angle. Looks good from this angle. So that really makes him look like a warrior medic. So yeah, looks on this guy are great. Articulation is okay. Got some quality issues. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll get him into his alt mode, and we will take a look at him from there. Well, I can't speak for anyone else, but I do have to say that I very much enjoy Ratchet's alt mode here. He's tiny. I mean, I knew he was a tiny figure, but once you get him in this mode, I was a little shocked by just how small the vehicle mode was. But it's a cool look. I really like this. So let's go ahead and get into those details. And we'll start right up here in the front with that windshield cockpit area with that tampographed Autobot symbol. And then you have this nice detail down here. I really do like what they've done with the reds, the whites, and the blues on this figure. And you can see a little bit of a difference between the painted white and the molded white. A little bit better color matching would have been appreciated, but really it doesn't detract just because this is such a funky looking design anyway. So I just think overall it's a cool look. I like what they've done. You do have those Cybertronian style wheels. I would have preferred something other than mushroom pegs on those wheels, but it is a deluxe class, so I guess I can't complain. And moving around to the back, you do have a lot of this really nice sculpt work back here. Again, going down to that wish list item, it would have been nice if maybe the lights and these panels would have been decked out in a different color just to add that splash in the back, because unlike a lot of Ratchets we've gotten recently, I'm talking to you, War for Cybertron Ratchet, the back of this one looks good. All right, and coming around to the left side, it is just like the right side, so yay for symmetry. And there he is from the top. And there he is from the bottom, and you do have a little bit of Ratchet face, so you can see. Oh, hello. So yeah, these are good looking details on this guy. As far as articulation goes in this mode, there is no articulation. And talking about the accessories and the blast effects, as we've already stated, you don't have any blast effect compatibility, and the only accessory you get is his rifle. So what we'll do is we'll just bring that rifle in now. I'll show you how to store it on the vehicle, and then we'll move on to the comparisons. So you can guess it. Here's a hole. Hey, look, there's a peg. And boom. Wow, just like that. Amazing. There you go. So, you know, it's weapon storage. It doesn't look really bad. It's a gun on top of a car. Where have we seen that before? Oh, gee, I don't know. Almost every other Autobot Transformer lately. But it doesn't look bad. I'm not going to complain about it. I just keep reminding myself it is a deluxe class. I really do like the funky look of this guy. So I've got no major complaints about storing the weapon up here. As always, it would be nice if, you know, we had blast effect compatibility, because this dude would look really cool with a big blast coming out of the front. But yeah, he looks all right. So there you go. That is Ratchet in his alt mode. Now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll bring in some of those comparisons, and we'll see how he looks compared to some other figures. For our first comparison, I figured we'd go ahead and start with Ratchet's Wavemate. So this is the Studio Series Bumblebee Wheeljack. Moving on to our next comparison, this is the Ratchet figure that came out when the 2007 movie premiered. So not a Studio Series, just the release of the Ratchet figure from 2007 in his Humvee mode. For our next comparison, this is Ratchet as we saw him from the Transformers Prime line. Next up, this is Ratchet as we saw him from the Transformers War for Cybertron trilogy in his Earth mode. In particular, this is the shattered glass version of the Ratchet figure, hence the purple Autobot symbol up here, because he is evil in the shattered glass universe. Moving on to our next comparison, this is the MP30 Masterpiece Ratchet. More specifically, this is my knockoff version, but they're the exact same figure. So it gives you a sense of scale there between the new Studio Series and the Masterpiece scale. And for our final alt mode comparison, unfortunately, I do not have a G1 Ratchet in my collection, so if that's what you're here for, you're going to be disappointed. In substitution for the G1 Ratchet, I have brought in my G1 Optimus Prime, so you can see how the new Studio Series Ratchet Deluxe class stacks up to just the OG G1 style of figures that we got, give or take 40 years ago. That concludes today's portion of the alt mode Ratchet comparisons. So let's go ahead and move on to the robot mode comparisons. For our first bot mode comparison, this is the Ratchet figure that came out with the 2007 Bayverse film. So this isn't the Studio Series, this is just the, whatever you want to call it, mainline figure that came out with the premiere of the movie in 2007. Here we see the Studio Series number 82 Ratchet next to the Masterpiece movie Ratchet, so you can see how those two compare. Moving on to our next comparison, this is Ratchet as we saw him from the Transformers Prime line. Next up, this is the Shattered Glass Ratchet from the Transformers War for Cybertron line. So this is the alternate universe Ratchet, where he's an evil Autobot instead of a heroic Autobot. Here we see him next to the MP30 Masterpiece Ratchet. Technically speaking, this is actually a knockoff, but it is the exact same figure as the MP30. For a wavemate comparison, here we see the Studio Series Ratchet next to the Studio Series Wheeljack from the Bumblebee movie. You can see how those two guys compare. And finally, as I mentioned in the alt mode comparison, I don't have an original G1 Ratchet. Sure wish I did, but I don't. So my G1 Optimus Prime is stepping in as a substitute, so you can see how he stacks up next to a G1 figure. That does it for comparisons, so let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. All right, everybody, let's talk a little bit about the Studio Series number 82 Ratchet. In short, I have to say that I really, really like the way this figure looks. I have a soft spot for Ratchet anyway, so anytime we get a Ratchet release, he's definitely going to be on my radar. But he does genuinely look good. He's got a great shelf presence. It's a nice, brilliant white, and those other paint, the reds and the blues, it just offsets with that and like makes him look great. So he has some shortcomings elsewhere, but I think overall this is a figure that you're going to want to pick up. Now, moving on to the bullets, we'll start with the aesthetics as we always do. And right off the bat, like I said, I think he looks great. Just a couple of nitpicky points would be I would have liked to have seen a little bit more paint in a few more areas, like particularly down in his feet or maybe somewhere in that crotch or that upper leg region. I think that would have provided just that extra splash that we needed to really get him over the line. Additionally, it would have been nice if the paint matched the molded white. So it's not completely detrimental to the figure, but it does catch your eye, particularly in the alt mode. You can see the difference between the painted white and the molded white, so that's a little bit of a detraction. Now, I will say from a positive standpoint, he comes with the light piping, and I know that can be a polarizing subject for a lot of people. Some people like it, some people don't. I personally fall in the category of somebody who likes it because when you have the right lighting on your figures, it just makes them look alive. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that this figure came with light piping. So for the overall aesthetics, I'm going to give this guy a pretty high score. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 on that. I think he just absolutely looks the part. So definitely a good looking figure. Now, moving on to the articulation. Yeah, it's pretty much on par with what we would expect from a deluxe class figure nowadays. He's got articulation in all the places where you're going to be able to get him into some pretty good dynamic poses. I will say the feet suffer. He does have the articulation in the feet. You can move the feet up, you can move the feet down, and you can use that ankle tilt. But he only has a few degrees each way for that, unless you're going to go down with the feet, and it's simply not enough. So you can see in this pose in particular, this foot isn't flush. Now, it's not enough to keep you from getting him in a nice pose, but I really would like to have the ability to have that foot sitting flat on the ground. So articulation for the most part is strong, but I think he loses it a little bit in the feet. And of course, it would always be nice to have a wrist swivel on there, or wrist rotation on there as well. So articulation, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. Moving on to the accessories, I'm just going to say it. I'm disappointed in the accessories. It's a big gun, which is cool, but I wouldn't have expected a big gun for a medic. I would have much rather liked to have gotten a smaller gun and maybe like a medical bag, or maybe, some kind of like a wrench or something that would signify that this is Ratchet, right? It's going to be hard to recreate a scene where Ratchet is trying to fix somebody and he's using his rifle instead of a wrench. Additionally, if you're going to give us a big gun like this, number one, it really would have been nice if it was blast effect compatible, and number two, if it would have had some paint on it instead of just being the obvious cheap molded gray plastic that it is. So accessories, I'm giving this guy a 6 out of 10. I think that's probably his worst area. Moving on to the quality, much like the wheeljack that I just reviewed, I'm disappointed in the overall quality of this figure. I will say that he came with everything he was supposed to. Everything functions the way it's supposed to. I don't have any tolerancing issues as far as transformation or anything like that goes, but I will say that those hips and that waist are looser than what I would expect, and I am disappointed out of the box out of that. I would have expected with a new mold and new design that those joints would have been tighter. So I'm definitely disappointed with the looseness of those joints, and bringing it up again because I do factor it under a quality issue is the mismatched paint between those whites. So quality's not the best on this guy. By no means is it a deal breaker for me, but I'm only going to give him a 7 out of 10 on quality. Now, moving on to the overall value, I think the value is there. This is a figure that's iconic. Everybody knows him. He's an Autobot. He, on the shelf, absolutely looks good, and it is a deluxe class price point, which I think is the right price for this guy. I certainly wouldn't feel comfortable paying a premium for this figure, but the MSRP for a deluxe class nowadays, I think, fits right in line with what you get with this figure, particularly the fact that he just looks amazing sitting on your shelf. So I picked this guy up for $22 on Amazon.com, and I think that's right where he should be. I don't feel bad at all paying $22 for this figure, even with the mediocre accessory and a few of the minor quality issues that I have. So overall value on this guy, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. So that brings us to a grand total out of a possible 50 points. Ratchet gets 38 out of 50, which puts him at 76%. It seems like a bit of a low score, but a lot of that is just coming from that accessory. Everything else, I think, is really good and really on par for this figure, and I definitely feel strongly that if you are in any way, shape, or form a Transformers collector, you will enjoy this figure. I think this is definitely one of the ones to pick up. So with that, that's going to end the review. I hope you guys got some good information out of this. I hope you were entertained, and if you haven't already done so, please be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a few comments and let us know what you think. I'd like to hear your experiences with this figure as well, to see if the quality issues are as prevalent on everybody else's copy, or hopefully if it's just me. So with that, guys, until we see you in the next review, take care.